regular meeting we will start now. We will call to order. Roll call, please.
Director Ariki?
I'm here.
Director Calandri?
Patty, I don't believe he'll be attending. I'm attending in his place.
Okay, thank you, Adrienne. I appreciate that.
Of course.
Director Urosic?
Here.
Director Chisholm?
Here.
Director McLaren?
Here.
Phyllis Stannon?
Here.
Is Kate going to join us?
Yes, she is here.
Oh, hi, Kate.
Hi.
Craig Harton?
Here.
Matt Knutson?
Present.
And Pete Thompson?
Here.
Shall we, number 3 is the adoption of the agenda.
I'll move adoption of the agenda.
Second, this is Adam.
Thank you. Roll call vote, please.
Director Ariki?
Yes.
Director Recca?
Yes.
Director Urosic?
Yes.
Director Chisholm?
Yes.
Director McLaren?
Yes. Okay, that motion passes. Now we will go to number 4, which is public comments for non-agenda items. This portion of the agenda allows an individual the opportunity to address the board on any item regarding Watermaster business that is not on the agenda, without acting or entering a dialogue with the public. Board members may ask clarifying questions about topics posed by the public. Your matter may be referred to the administrator and/or advisory committee. Do I hear any public comments at this time? Was that someone trying to do a public comment? Okay. We shall go to number 5, which is special presentations. We have none at this time. Then item number 6 is our consent agenda, which is the payment of bills through January 20th, 2022. Treasurer's report for the month ending December 31st, 2021. Accounts receivable aging summary as of December 31st, 2021. And minutes of December 8th, 2021 special meeting. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion to approve.
Okay. Sounds like we had a motion, and Derek, are you seconding that motion?
Yes.
Thank you. May I have a roll call vote, please?
Director Ariki?
Yes.
Director Recca?
Yes.
Director Urosic?
Yes.
Director Chisholm?
Yes.
Director McLaren?
Yes. Okay, that motion passes. Next, we will go on to number 7, which is our advisory committee report. And we have advisory committee chair Chase on to speak on that, please.
Good morning. This is James Chase. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, the advisory met last Wednesday to discuss the action items on the agenda, and all of the comments and concerns are in the memo. If there's any questions, please let me know, and I can address you to the proper person that may have those concerns or comments.
Okay. Then we will go on to 8, which is our committee reports. And we will hear from the administrative Committee.
All right. Good morning. This is Matt. So the administrative committee met last Friday. We reviewed a number of items on the agenda. Primarily went through the payment of bills that was just approved under the consent agenda. We also reviewed a couple items coming up for consideration, being the replacement water assessment for calendar year 2022, as well as the replacement water plan submitted by the Antelope Valley State Water Contractors Association. So we had a good meeting, and Adam and Derek were both there, as well as staff, and be happy to answer any questions that anybody may have on that.
Okay, do we have any questions? Okay, thank you for that. And now we will go to our replacement water consideration and possible action on adopting replacement water assessments for year 2022. Staff report will be our administrator.
All right, good morning again. This is Matt. So included in your packet on page 36 is the proposed resolution number R22-01, which will set the replacement water assessment rate for calendar year 2022. This resolution is pretty much the same as what we've done in prior years, with the exception of the actual rate. So attached to the resolution is a staff report and the calculation of how we come up with the replacement water rate. Just a refresher, we set two rates. One rate will be for parties that overpump within the boundaries of the Antelope Valley State Water Contractor Association, which is made up of AVAC, Palmdale Water District, and Little Rock Creek Irrigation District. And that proposed rate is $523 per acre foot. And the second rate are for producers that overpump outside of the association boundaries. And that proposed rate is $1,055 per acre foot. Also included in the memo on page 37, you can see the historical rates down at the bottom between years 2016 and 2021. We also discussed with the advisory committee last week the concept of adding a fee to these rates that will allow the Watermaster to recoup some of the expenses and Watermaster staff time associated with implementing the replacement water program. So the recommendation from the advisory committee was to do some more research on that and bring back some data that supports that proposed fee. So at this time, the recommendation is to proceed with the proposed rates for calendar year 2022 as presented on resolution R22-01. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Yes, Matt, this way, are you proposing then to come back with an assessment fee that would be added on to this, adopt a new resolution that would include the revised fees and shit?
Correct. We would set the replacement water rate as proposed, and then there would be a separate administrative fee that we could adopt at a future date.
Okay, sounds great. Thanks.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Do I have a motion on resolution 22-01?
In the motion,
Yes, please.
I move that we approve resolution 22-01. This is Adam.
Thank you, Adam. Do I hear a second?
Second, Mr. Wayne.
Okay, thank you. May I have a roll call vote, please?
Director Reiki,
Yes.
Director Recca,
Yes.
Director Urosic,
Yes.
Director Chisholm,
Yes.
Director McLaren.
Yes. That motion passes. Now we will go on to number 10, and that is consideration and possible action to accept and file the replacement water plan submitted by the AV State Water Contractors Authority, which satisfies the Watermasters replacement water responsibilities for replacement water assessments collected as of January 3rd, 2022. And that will be our staff report administrator.
All right. Good morning again. This is Matt. I'll go ahead and kick this off.
Recording in progress.
Peter Thompson and I will be tag teaming this as we each had a different part of implementing this proposed plan. So in your board packet on page 41 is a letter submitted on behalf of the Watermaster to the Antelope Valley State Water Contractors Association requesting replacement water per our agreement that is dated October of 2019. So in that agreement, it lays out the provisions and process for requesting and receiving payment for replacement water assessment or replacement water to the Antelope Valley Watermaster. On that same page 41, you can see a list of producers that have paid replacement water assessments as of January 3rd, 2022. The total quantity of replacement water that these fees reflect is 1,058 acre feet. Total payment received is $482,808.71 by various parties being held by the Antelope Valley Watermaster. So this letter was submitted to the association, and Pete's going to talk about the plan that they put together and what the next steps are.
All right. So good morning. This is Peter, and I'll cover this section. So the State Water Contractors Association received a letter from the Watermaster and then worked with staff from the three agencies, Little Rock, AVEC, Palmdale Water District, to develop this plan. And it goes in accordance with an agreement among the AV State Water Contractors on how to divide up the water. So any water pumped within an agency's service area would be provided by them. And then water pumped outside would be divvied up proportionately amongst the contractors based on Table A proportions with the State Water Project. And so that's what you see here is this plan that has AVEC covering 1,055.13 acre feet, Palmdale Water District 2.64, and Little Rock Creek 0.29. And this plan was submitted to the Watermaster engineer for their comment and approval, and we've received that back. And once this plan is approved by the Watermaster board, the association will receive the funds and then disperse those to the different agencies, and the Watermaster engineer will then deduct the amount of replacement water from each agency from water that they have previously stored in the Antelope Valley. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Do we have any questions? Okay, hearing no questions, do I have a motion to consider and possible action to accept and file the replacement water plan?
This is Derek. I'll make that motion.
Thank you. Do I hear a second?
This is going Chisholm. I'll second it.
Okay, thank you. May I have a roll call vote, please?
Director Ariki,
Yes.
Director Recca,
Yes.
Director Urasi,
Yes.
Director Chisholm,
Yes.
and Director McLaren.
Yes, that motion passes. Next, we will go on to number 11, which is consideration and possible action re the General Counsel letters on water theft. And that will be our General Counsel will be speaking on that.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairman.
The page 47 has the proposed letter to the Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors concerning illegal cannabis operations. The letter has been circulated for a couple of months now, and it was the board's wish last month that we bring it back up for consideration. I noticed that the advisory committee recommends it be sent out, so there seems to be widespread support for it. There may be a comment in our administrative committee meeting. I believe Director Ariki questioned whether all the directors need to sign it, but I'll leave that for your internal discussion. The recommendation is that we send it and with the board vote.
Okay, do we have any discussion?
Well, this is Adam. The rationale behind me recommending that the chairperson sign it instead of every single director is for the sake of simplicity and expediency. So I still recommend that we do that.
Okay, with that, do I have a motion? Was that your motion, basically, Adam?
I'm sorry?
Was that a motion to that?
Yeah, you can consider the motion with a recommendation to only have the chair of the board sign the letter and see if we can get everybody's support on that. If not, I go back to all the directors signing it, fine too.
I'll second the motion. This is Adrian.
Okay. Is there any other discussion? Okay, I'll call for a roll call vote.
Director Ariki,
Yes.
Director Recca,
Yes.
Director Urosic,
Yes.
Director Chisholm,
Yes.
and Director McLaren.
Yes, that motion passes.
And just to clarify, Madam Chair, the letter will go out under the signature of the chair only, right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we will go to number 12, which is consideration of possible action request to waive late charges. And that is our administrator will brief us on that.
All right. Thank you, Madam Chair. This is Matt again. So in your packet on page 50 is the same request that we have had the last couple meetings from Medler Valley Mutual Water Company. So just a little history. Back in November, when this was presented, the board directed staff to draft up a payment plan for the board to review at a future meeting. Then there was action again at the December meeting where Medler addressed the board regarding the late fees assessed and requested that the board reconsider the request to waive the charges. At that same December meeting, the board members' request for future agenda items requested that this letter be put back on the agenda along with the template for waiving or developing a payment plan or payment extension. So this kind of couples with the next item on the agenda, item number 13, which is that payment plan template that's going to be reviewed by the board. So I'm not sure if we need to take formal action on the request to waive the late charges, or if we want to save that for discussion under the next item. Board's pleasure.
Board, how do we feel about taking this with item number 13? Doing it at the same time.
This is Adam. My position on this, the consideration of waiving the late fees or charges was discussed, and the board unanimously took an action on that in the November meeting and instructed the staff to reach out to Medler and develop a payment agreement and bring it back to the board for approval. And that was how we were going to handle it. Unless the board sees it any differently, I think at this point we need to consider approving the payment plan agreement and then offer that to Medler as a way to lessen the financial burden on them. I don't know if we've discussed, like, is it going to be a 3-year plan or a 2-year plan, but I'm open to that. So that's my recommendation to the chairwoman.
So is anyone not agreeing with the fact that we have already basically taken action from the way I'm understanding it on that? And so we would rather go on to the consideration, the possible action on the payment extension settlement agreement template. Is there anyone opposed to doing that?
No.
Okay, hearing no abstentions to doing that, we will go to number 13, which is consideration and possible action on the payment extension settlement agreement template, and our general counsel will discuss that.
Yes, that's on page 59 through 61 of your packet. And it is in response to the board's request that we develop a template for use, not for waiver of fees and costs, but for a payment plan to work out when appropriate, subject to board approval, a payment plan. And the suggested template language is there for the board's review and approval. The one comment we had at the administrative committee was whether this document should be entitled something other than settlement agreement and should be entitled instead payment agreement. I've looked back at the content of the template, and it refers to enforcement under Code of Civil Procedure 664.5. And that talks about specifically getting a determination of a settlement agreement's been violated and being able to get court action involvement as a result. Because this agreement makes reference to that section of the CCP, I think it's better practice to leave it entitled settlement agreement, even though it could be called payment agreement because of the reference to its enforceability as a settlement agreement under the Code of Civil Procedure. But other than that minor issue, certainly open to any comments with respect to the template.
So, Craig, can we call it settlement payment agreement?
Yes. You get both. Yeah.
I just want to be very specific that it is for a payment of outstanding charges related to overpumping.
Right. Right. We can do that, Director Ariki. That's fine as long as we retain the term settlement. I think that's important.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And then one more caveat, maybe it's already in the agreement. This needs to be on a case-by-case basis, and it needs to be requested by the party. In other words, we don't want to use it as a default way of collecting charges. The party has to demonstrate goodwill on their part and maybe financial hardship before we can go ahead and use this as a way to pay for overpumping charges.
Yeah, I think I totally agree with that. It's going to be a case-by-case basis based on staff responding to the situation with the party, and therefore it's going to be subject to board review on a case-by-case basis.
Okay. All right, with that, if I can make the motion, Madam Chair.
Okay, do I have a second on the template?
This is Derek. I'll second.
Okay, do I hear any public comments? Okay, may I have a roll call vote, please?
Director Enrique,
Yes.
Director Recca,
Yes.
Director Urosic,
Yes.
Director Chisholm,
Yes.
and Director McLaren.
Yes, that motion passes.
Point of clarification, so I understand, Greg, pardon, are we then going to take this template that's been approved and then apply it to the Medler situation, bring it back to the board?
That's my understanding. Staff can confirm, but I believe that's the understanding, is that now that we have a template approved, the Medler situation can be addressed potentially subject to board approval.
All right, thank you.
And it will be for the late charges. They've already paid the replacement water assessment, so it will not be for replacement waters, just for the late charges. And just as my own little note, it would have been nice to have had this when we were working with Medler, because it would have prevented them from getting those late charges.
Okay. Well, now we will go to item number 14, which is consideration and possible action on transfer applications. And our staff engineer will take us through those.
Good morning. This is Kate White with
Pardon
Contractors.
me.
Hello.
Hi, excuse the interruptions. This is Debbie Farrell from Medler Valley Mutual Water Company.
Okay.
And I wanted to just ask a question, if I may, about what we just discussed. Because I was under the understanding that Mr. Paris put this item back on the agenda for this month so that it could be more discussed by the board about the possibility of waiving the late charges. The part about the settlement agreement was something that had, like you said, been in the works, and so they said, we want to put that also on the agenda for the next meeting, which is today. But it sounded to me, and I'm not sure, but it sounded to me like you guys said that in the last meeting you decided that you were not going to waive the late charges, and so that, you were going forward with the settlement agreement. But that's not how I understood it at the last meeting. Was I wrong?
Okay, this is Dwayne Chisholm. Rob Harris is not present at today's meeting. Maybe the best thing to do is bring this item back for the request for the waiver of the late fee when Rob Harris will be at the next meeting, along with the extension agreement, and then the board can take appropriate action at that time.
Because also with the settlement,
Director Chisholm.
we would have a chance to discuss it then too, right?
This is Adam Enrique, Director Chisholm. With all due respect, I think we discussed it right now. What the conclusion was that this item was brought up in our November meeting. It was discussed, and it was determined at that time, because the board doesn't want to set precedent, and because there were many other parties who have late charges, we decided the best approach to assess Medler is to get into this payment agreement, which will make it much more easier for them to make the payment over a 2 or 3 year period, whatever the board decides is a reasonable period. So today, yes, there may have been an indication that this issue will be discussed at today's board. It is discussed at today's board. It was determined to allow for the decision that was made at the November meeting to stand and approve this payment agreement and move forward.
I did not understand it that way. It sounded like Director Paris wanted to have more discussion on the possibility of the waiving of the late charges due to the circumstances. And
well, Director Paris is one director of 5.
Right.
The five director in November approved or did not agree to waive the charge. They again voted today with the same. So I don't understand why we need to bring the item back. I'm going to vote no in it, whether it's a month from today or 3 months down the road.
Understand.
And my understanding, I don't want to speak for any other party, from their vote today and their vote in November, they agree with that.
But at the December meeting, you're talking about a November meeting, and at the December meeting, it was different.
Correct. He said, we'll bring the item for discussion, which we did. We discussed it, and we agreed that we will not waive the charge. Instead, we will approve a payment agreement that Medler can choose to get into with the Watermaster board.
No, that's not what was said.
This is Director Urasic, and I do agree with Adam that that was what was said, and the November timeline as well as today's voting is the action of the board, and we should move forward.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I'm going to ask this question. Do we need to bring it up and formalize a vote on that? Again, since we put it on to number 13. So should we go back and do consideration and possible action, request to waive late charges, open it back up and take a formal vote on that?
Before we do that, Madam Chair, with all respect, I'd like to hear from our attorney.
Yes, I was looking at the minutes to see if there was any reflection, Director Ariki, of that action by the board at the December 9th meeting, and I'm not finding it.
Okay.
With that said, I mean, my recollection is exactly what you and Director Urasic is on the subject, but in abundance of caution, just to be clear, it makes sense to take a vote on item number 12 on the agenda, just to formalize, so there's not a question of whether the board has taken a vote on this topic.
Okay.
All right. So we're consideration and possible action on the request to waive late charges. Do I have a motion on that?
Sure. I move that we consider Medler's late charges. To reject the request for Medler's waiving the charges.
Do I have a second on that?
So this is Derek. I just want to be clear. I'm not sure, Kathy, I heard what you said and then what Adam said is the same.
I want to, can you read what the item is? What is the item is to consider?
It's to consider if we will waive the late charges. And Adam's motion was to deny the request to waive late charges.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, with that, I will second that motion.
Okay, I have a first and a second. Do I have any other public comment on this item? Okay, so we will do a roll call vote on the request to waive late charges for Medler Valley Mutual Water Company.
Director Ariki,
Yes.
Director Recca,
Yes.
Director Urasic,
Yes.
Director Chisholm,
No.
Director McLaren,
Well, the motion won't pass anyways because we don't have 5 votes. So with that,
I
guess, well,
Hold on 1 minute.
let me go back. Adam, let me just try one thing here.
Yeah.
I think the recommendation that was there was to waive them, not waive them. And I think that's the motion that should be presented. And if it doesn't pass, then it continues to go forward from the approval of the November meeting. We're reapproving something or trying to reapprove something we already did in November. And if staff and council can clarify that, I would appreciate that. But I don't think this is double jeopardy where we get to retry it again.
I agree.
And it's really frustrating. I'm not understanding what's going on here from certain board members.
I'm sorry, I'm just trying also to make sure that we're doing our due diligence and doing it fairly, because now I don't recollect from which she's.
Then I would ask staff to go back to the minutes in November and review those and how the board voted.
Yeah, that I think is central to occur. Go back to the recording of that meeting to see if the decision's already been made.
The decision was made.
If I may interrupt, this is Matt. So we did that just now. I looked back at the November meeting minutes and the December meeting minutes. So I'm going to start with November 21 Watermaster board meeting. Item number 13 was consideration and possible action on request to waive late charges from Medler Valley Mutual Water Company. Under that board action, the board directed staff to draft a payment plan for the board to review at the next meeting. Then that moves us to the December 21 meeting.
Hold on a minute, Matt. But that was done following an action to not waive the charge.
Okay, but I'm looking at the minutes, Adam, and all it said was that the board directed staff to draft a payment plan. It doesn't specifically say that the request was.
Go back to I want to hear the recording.
Okay, well, we need time to do that.
Okay.
Because that's not what I stated for the record. That specifically I said we don't want to set any precedents. There are a lot of people with late charges, but we could be more flexible and allow people time to make the payment. And hence, this payment plan concept came about. Otherwise, what's the point?
Yeah, and let me continue on because the next item or next description will bring some light to how we got it back on the agenda today. So at the December meeting, there wasn't any action items listed on the agenda specific to the Medler Valley Mutual Water Company.
Correct.
So the Medler Valley Mutual Water Company made a comment under public comment.
Correct.
Addressing the board to reconsider the request.
Mm-hmm.
And then on item number 16 at the December 21 meeting, under board members' request for future agenda items,
mm-hmm.
Director Paris requested that the Medler Valley Mutual Water Company request to waive late charges be brought back to the board at the January meeting. So that's
Agreed.
why That's why the request showed back up on the agenda today.
No, I agreed with you, but if you recall my comment at the administrative committee that this item was approved, why are we bringing it back to the agenda? But it was requested by a board member, and as a result, I allowed it to go, fully intending to just tell you what I'm telling you right now, that this item was approved. And I didn't hear Craig saying otherwise. I didn't hear you at the administrative committee saying otherwise. I didn't hear Derek saying otherwise. So we need to be very cautious here.
And the practical result of not having a decision on waiving fees is that the fees are not waived.
Right.
So I think that's the consequence of the vote that the board just took, is there's no approval of waiving late fees, and staff is directed to work on the payment plan with Medler.
That's how it stands right now.
That's how it stands right now.
Right. Regardless of Director Chisholm's vote.
Yes.
Notwithstanding the fact that the vote was differently in November.
Yes.
I agree as well.
Okay, let's move on.
So we can move on.
Yep. That's what staff will do. We'll work on the payment plan, bring that back for the board's action.
Okay.
Did we are we doing a vote then for item 12?
No.
We did.
No vote for item 12.
Well, we did, and it failed.
It was not unanimous.
Yeah.
That's why I want to make sure I had that right.
Okay. So we will go back to item number 14, consideration and possible action on the transfer applications, where our engineer will take us through those.
Good morning. This is Kate White with Todd Groundwater. Is my volume okay?
Yes.
Great. There are 4 transfers on today's agenda. And the first one starts on page 66. Healy Enterprises, who's an Exhibit 4 party, would like to sell its property, all its permanent production rights, and all its carryover water to AVSWCA. It has 700 acre-feet of production rights and 4,200 acre-feet of carryover water. Figure 1 on page 68 shows the location of the Healy property in the West Antelope subarea. Healy has not produced water between 2016 and 2021, and they have an existing operational well on their property that produces about 800 or 500 gallons per minute, which is 800 acre-feet per year. AVSWCA would like the flexibility of producing the transferred water through the existing Healy well and or through their existing wells at the West Side Water Bank. Figures 1 and 2 on pages 68 and 69 of the packet show groundwater contours and hydrographs in the vicinity of the West Side Water Bank. There does not appear to be groundwater declines in this part of the West Antelope subarea, and all wells down gradient of the West Side Water Bank show increasing groundwater elevations resulting from recent recharge at the bank. 700 acre-feet per year of production rights and 4,200 acre-feet of carryover water from the Healy to AVSWCA is not anticipated to result in material injury for the following reasons. No material injury analysis is needed for groundwater production on the Healy property because this transfer is the result of a property sale and will be used at the same location. Groundwater level declines are not apparent in the vicinity of the West Side Water Bank. The water will be pumped from the Healy property and or the West Side Water Bank, and AVSWCA will submit a subsequent transfer or a new point of extraction request if this water is to be produced elsewhere. This transferred water is anticipated to be produced over a period of time, and AVEC will operate the recovery of stored water at its west side water bank within the CEQA-defined operating conditions to avoid any material injury associated with the recovery of stored water, in addition to production of this transferred water at the west side water. The advisory committee recommended approval of this transfer, but a committee member had two questions. And the first question was, although groundwater level declines are not apparent in the vicinity of the west side water bank, might such declines occur when the transferred water is recovered from the bank? And the second question is, it was assumed that this transferred water will be produced over a period of time, but no information on the time period was provided. And a shorter time period could make a material injury more likely. And those are good questions. AVEC has a suite of water supplies to draw from and multiple locations that can produce groundwater. The Westside Water Bank will be operated within its CEQA-defined operating conditions. And if any material injury related groundwater level declines are occurring at the Westside Water Bank, AVEC will shift its production to other areas and sources. And so it's my attempt to try to answer those two questions. Are there any questions on this transfer application?
You did very good, Kate, except I wanted to ask one question, and maybe Nat can shed light on this if needed. Was this, I mean, obviously, like we said, there was a CEQA document was prepared. Was there a Regional Water Quality Control Board permit for this bank?
I'm going to let Matt answer that question.
Yeah, and the question is about the AVEX Westside Water Bank?
Correct.
Yeah, there was consultation with the regional board about the bank, but there was no permit required from that agency to operate the bank.
So they decided that there is no need to permit that bank?
Correct, because the use of surface water, imported water, as being the source for a banking operation. But like I said, there was consultation with the state board.
So typically when state water project is used for banking, in the past at least, the Regional Water Quality Control Board insisted on a permit to be consistent with the basin plan.
No, there was some early consultation with that, but they changed their decision on AVAC's banking operation, that the permit would not be required.
Okay. So that must have been a change in the direction of the Regional Water Quality Control Board, would you say?
Yeah, correct. I mean, possibly, but this was the first project for this regional board.
Okay. Was there a permit issued to AVEC in the other groundwater bank?
No.
The first one?
Well, the first one is the Westside Water Bank.
I thought this is further west. Am I wrong?
This is what Kate was referring to as the location where pumping can occur, is at AVAC's existing Westside Water Bank, which was the first operational banking project for AVAC.
Correct. Was there a permit issued by the regional board for that bank?
No.
Okay.
Okay.
Any other questions on that one? Okay.
This is Director Recca. I was just curious, does staff ensure that any outstanding debt by the Healy properties handled before the transfer?
Any outstanding debt as far as like administrative assessment?
Yes.
Yeah, that was part of the research done by staff prior to authorizing any transfer. Is payment had to be made in full of any back payments due.
Okay, thank
And
you.
that's part of our rules and regulations.
I thought it was. I just want to make sure. Thank you.
Yeah, we were careful to make sure that's included.
Good question, though. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, if there's no other questions, we will continue with the others.
I think there's a resolution for approval. I think there's
Right.
separate resolutions for
We
each
need to approve
application.
the resolution.
You are correct. I see it now. We have that resolution 22-02.
Or
Do I have the motion?
R22-02. Sorry, Madam Chair.
Oh, you made a motion?
No, I will make the motion. I move that we approve resolution R-22-02.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second. Rebecca?
Thank you. The motion and a second. Do I have any public comments on that item before we take a roll call vote?
No brainers.
Okay, may I have a roll call vote, please? Director Ariki?
Yes.
Director Recca?
Yes.
Director Urasic?
Yes.
Director Chisholm?
Yes.
And Director McLaren? Yes. Okay, we will go on to resolution 22-03.
That's the second transfer, and that starts on page 107 of the packet. Richard Miner would like to transfer all his 999 acre feet per year of permanent production rights and all his carryover water, which amounts to a little over 5,000 acre feet, to Rosamond Community Services District. Richard Miner is an Exhibit 4 party, and our CSD is an Exhibit 3 party. Our CSD would use this transfer to maintain its historic production levels and will pump this water from its well number 9, which is about 6 miles southeast of the Richard Miner property. And locations are shown on Figure 1, which is on page 108. The minor parcels are in the Willow Springs sub-area, and our CSD well number 9 is in the central Antelope Valley sub-area. Richard Miner sold his property in October of 2020, but retained all his production rights and carryover water, which he is now selling to our CSD. Our CSD well number 9 has produced between 1,600 and 1,950 acre feet between 2016 and 2021. And they indicate that well number 9 production in the future, in the near future, will be similar to past production. Figure 1 on page 108 shows relatively flat groundwater contours in the northwest portion of the central Antelope Valley subarea. And Figure 2, which is on page 109, shows representative groundwater level hydrographs. Well number 9 is an area where groundwater does not appear to be declining is shown on the hydrographs surrounding well number 9 parcel. Recognizing that this transfer of production rights and carryover water will be used over a period of years to compensate in part for our CSD's declining ramp down production allowance, and that the pumping of our CSD well number 9 does not represent new or increased pumping, we find the potential for material injury as defined in the judgment to be negligible. The advisory committee recommended approval, but had a concern that if production would not increase at well number 9, would increase at another one of our CSD's wells. And again, this transfer does not represent new pumping, but represents our CSD's attempt to get water to maintain its historic production levels. It was, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know about that statement that you made.
About not increased pumping?
Well, our CSD was pumping higher amount than their groundwater rights because of the ramp down period, right?
Correct.
But the intent is when we get to the baseline, is that's when the basin is supposed to heal. So accumulatively, you're right. I mean, this individual that is selling them the water would have pumped it himself, right?
Right.
Right.
In a
so
big
in
picture,
that sense, I agree with you. It just, I just want to make sure that that's understood, that the ramp down is, the intent of the ramp down is to allow people to pump more than they should to get up to the water rights. I'm not saying that this transfer is going to have any material injury or anything like that. I just want to make sure that, yeah, they buy water rights from somebody, but it's not true that their pumping rights is different than what they were pumping in the last 4 or 5 years, right?
Yeah, so their pumping will kind of remain relatively the same at well number 9 at that location. And so I think that my statement was referring to local groundwater level declines. So that pumping of that well won't change much.
Oh, I thought you said that the advisory committee were concerned about increasing the pumping from that well.
Correct.
But RCS, go ahead.
And it will not really increase in there. So they said if it's not increasing at that well, would it increase at a different well?
Okay.
Does that make sense? What their concern was, and I was saying that it,
No, that's
transfer.
fine. It's not a. Go ahead. Just
I mean, but that's a good point that their pre-ramp down production was like at 2,900 acre feet, and their production rights at 404.
Right.
So that's a big decrease.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Are there any other questions on this transfer?
Hearing no other questions, do I have a motion?
What is the resolution number?
On resolution 22-03.
I move that we approve resolution 22-03.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, do I have any public comments on this item? Hearing none, may I have a roll call vote, please?
Director Rigby,
Yes.
Director Recca,
Yes.
Director Urosic,
Yes.
Director Chisholm,
Yes.
Director McLaren.
Yes. Okay. We will go on to resolution 22-04.
All right, this is the third transfer, and that starts on page 119 of the packet. And this transfer is related to a property sale for H&N Development Company West Incorporated to RTS Orchards LLC. It involves 808 acre feet per year of permanent production rights. H&N is an Exhibit 4 party, and RTS will be a successor in interest and does not need to intervene. And the 6 parcels associated with the property sale and transfer in the West Antelope sub-area are shown on Figure 1, which is on page 120. The property has been leased by RTS Orchards, and 2 wells have provided water to all 6 parcels in the past. In 2021, a little over 1,500 acre feet were produced from the property, resulting in a 2021 replacement water obligation of about 118 acre feet. And RTS will be responsible and has agreed to pay for this replacement water obligation or find a transfer. Because this transfer of 808 production rights is related to a property sale, the production rights will remain within the land and no material injury is needed for this transfer. Are there any questions?
And this is in the West sub-area?
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, hearing no questions, do I have a motion?
This is Derek. I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, with a motion and a second, do I hear a public comment? May I have a roll call vote, please?
Director Ariki,
Yes.
Director Recca,
Yes.
Director Urosic,
Yes.
Director Chisholm,
Yes.
Director McLaren.
Yes. Okay. Now we will go on to Resolution 2205.
Okay, this is the fourth and last transfer, and that starts on page 179. The Lane Family Trust would like to do a one-time transfer of 340 acre-feet of carryover water to Vulcan Materials. The Lane Family Trust has a carryover water for this transfer, and Vulcan would like this transfer for its 2021 replacement water obligation. Any unused transfer water will be applied to its anticipated 2022 replacement water obligation. Vulcan has recently pumped more than its production rate of 260 acre-feet, and it pumped 685 acre-feet in 2020 and 619 acre-feet in 2019. They're still working on their 2021 annual production report. So we don't know what they pumped in 2021 yet. The Lane Family Trust has produced water from 4 wells located on parcels in the central and southeast subareas, and that's shown on Figure 1, which is on page 181 of the packet. Lane also has an inactive well in the West Antelope subarea. Vulcan has 4 wells located on 3 parcels in the southeast subarea. In 2021, 91% of Lane's production occurred from its 2 wells in the southeast subarea, which is just northeast of where Vulcan produces most of its water. Figure 2 on page 182 shows spring 2021 groundwater contours, and Figure 3 on page 183 shows hydrographs within the vicinity of the Vulcan and Lane production wells in the southeast subarea. The hydrographs generally show declining levels, except for USGS well 93101, which is on the left-hand side of the figure, and that shows a leveling off in the last few years. Most of the Lane and Vulcan production occurs in this area. USGS well number 1001, which is the bottom right of the figure, has data through September 2020 and shows a slight decrease in the rate of groundwater level decline. This well is about 1.5 miles east of the Vulcan parcel, of one of the Vulcan parcels, and Vulcan pumped about 12 acre-feet from this parcel in 2020. The other 3 hydrographs only have data through 2018 or 2019 and may not be representative of current conditions. Recognizing that this is a one-time transfer, generally within the southeast subarea, and that this water will be used by Vulcan to offset its replacement water obligations, we find the potential for material injury, as defined in the judgment, negligible. The advisory committee recommended approval of this transfer. Are there any questions on this transfer?
It's
Okay, there are no questions. Do I have a motion on Resolution 22-05?
I move that we approve Resolution 22-05.
I'll second.
Okay. Do we have any public comments on this item? Hearing no public comments, may I have a roll call vote, please?
Director Ariki,
Yes.
Director Recca,
Yes.
Director Urosic,
Yes.
Director Chisholm,
Yes.
and Director McLaren.
Yes. Okay, that does it for 15, which is consideration and possible action on well applications. We will start off with Resolution R22-06.
All right, this is Kate again. I will take these. There are two new production applications on today's agenda. The first one starts on page 202 of the packet. Mr. Garcia is requesting 2 acre-feet per year for a single-family home with minimal, if any, outdoor use, and that's in the West Antelope subarea. And given the small amount of proposed production and the obligation to pay a replacement water assessment, Todd Groundwater finds potential for material injury as defined in the judgment negligible, and the applicant does not need to intervene since they are part of the Willis class of the non-pumpers. That's all I have for this one. Are there any questions on it?
Okay, hearing no questions. May I have a motion for resolution 22-06?
Mr. Wayne, I'll provide a motion for R22-06 to approve.
And Adrian will second.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second. Do I have any public comments on this item? Hearing none, may I have a roll call vote, please? Director Ricky?
Yes.
Director Recca?
Yes.
Director Urasic?
Yes.
Director Chisholm?
Yes.
Director McLaren? Yes. Okay, that motion passes. Now we will go on to resolution R2207.
All right, that's the second new production application, and that starts on page 218. The applicant, Michelle Grijalva, is requesting 1.5 acre-feet per year for a single-family home in the southeast subarea. The property location is shown on figure 1 on page 219 of the packet. The water will be used for domestic use and landscaping, such as shade trees and flowers. Given the small amount of production and the obligation to pay a replacement water assessment, Todd Groundwater finds that the potential for material injury is defined in the judgment negligible, and the applicant is part of the Willis class. Are there any questions on this new production application?
Did you say 1 or 1.5?
1.5.
Yeah, okay. I thought I heard you saying 1, but you're right, 1.5. Thank you.
It's 1.5, and there's actually a typo in the letter in the second paragraph.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. There are no other questions. May I have a motion on R2207?
This is Adam. I make the motion to approve R-22-07.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Do I hear any public comments on this item? Hearing none, may I have a roll call vote, please? Director Ariki?
Yes.
Director Recca?
Yes.
Director Urasic?
Yes.
Director Chisholm?
Yes.
Director McLaren? Yes. Okay, we will go on to resolution 22-08.
This is Kate. I'm going to take this one also. AVEC has submitted an application for 7 non-production wells at its High Desert Water Bank project, which is a storage and recovery bank that they're working on in the West Antelope subarea. The application starts on page 247. 6 pilot recovery wells and 1 monitoring well will provide hydrogeologic and water quality information that will be used for the development of a groundwater model and final project design. After well construction, pumping tests will be performed on these wells for about 7 days. Temporary push-up berms will be constructed to contain the pumping test water for recharge back into the groundwater basin. The wells will then be idle for about 2 years until the project is fully designed and constructed. AVEC will then submit a storage agreement application for the water bank and new point of extraction applications for the pilot recovery wells that will be converted to operational recovery wells. And an MI, material injury analysis, will be conducted at that time. These wells are being installed as part of the second round of drilling at the project. In December 2020, 4 pilot recovery wells and 1 monitoring well were approved, and those wells were installed in 2021. AVEC estimates that about 400 acre-feet of groundwater will be pumped during the 7-day pumping tests. The pumped water will be recharged back to the groundwater, but some evapotranspiration will occur. And to account for this groundwater use, AVEC has offered to deduct 10% of the actual groundwater pumped during the pumping tests from their banked water or from their production rates. We recommend approval of the 6 pilot recovery wells and 1 monitoring well, and find no material injury is defined in the judgment, provided the produced water is discharged to a locally bermed area for recharge. 10% of the groundwater pumped is assumed lost and will be deducted from AVEC's water supplies. Upon final project design completion, AVEC will submit a storage agreement application for the water bank and submit new point of extraction applications for the pilot recovery wells that will be converted to operational recovery wells. Are there any questions on this one?
The one thing that I didn't understand, when AVEC developed the wells, they're going to credit the basin with the 10% water?
Yeah, so they'll be doing the 7-day pumping tests, and that pumped water will be placed into berms, and AVEC is conservatively estimated that 10% will be lost. That's kind of the general percentage that's being used for banks. That will be lost to ET.
Okay, I see. Okay.
From what chart
Got it.
recharges back to the groundwater.
Got it. All right.
Is there any other questions? Okay, may I have a motion on resolution 22-08, please?
I move that we approve resolution R22-08.
Reckel, second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Do I have any public comment on this item? Okay, may I have a roll call vote, please?
Director Riki?
Yes.
Director Recca?
Yes.
Director Urasic? Director Chisholm?
Yes.
Director McLaren?
Yes. Okay, that motion passes. Now we will go to resolution 22-09.
Okay, I'll go ahead and take this one. This month, we have 1 application for small pumper documentation. This application is for a domestic well in the Central Antelope sub-area. The application starts on page 291 of your agenda, and it's for Alberto and Christina Banuelis. This well was drilled in 2007 to supply water to a proposed house, but the house was never built at that time, and the applicant is now building their home and wishes to utilize this well. Watermaster staff recommends approval, and so did the advisory committee. Does anybody have any questions regarding this application?
They're part of the small pumpers, right?
They're qualifying to be a small pumper.
Right. Okay.
Okay. Hearing no other questions, may I have a motion on resolution 22-09?
I move that we approve resolution R-22-09. Adam.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Do I have any public comments on this item? Okay, hearing none, may I have a roll call vote, please?
Director Riki?
Yes.
Director Recca?
Yes.
Director Urasic?
Yes.
Director Chisholm?
Yes.
Director McLaren?
Yes. Okay. For this one, we don't have a resolution. This is a Ron Bannock application extension request. And this will be our staff report engineer. We'll discuss this one.
Yep, this is Kate again, and Mr. Bannock is requesting a 4-month extension of his new production application that was approved previously. He was granted 215 acre-feet per year of new production for use in 2020 and 2021. The produce water is currently being used to support construction at a local solar project. But construction at the approved location has been delayed, and it's anticipated that the project will be completed in April. And Mr. Bannock would like to extend his 2021 new production amount for 4 months. And it's anticipated that about 7.5 acre feet more of water will be needed between January and April to complete the project. The anticipated total production for the 16-month period from January 2021 through April 2022 will be less than the originally approved amount of 215. In 2021, he pumped about 116 acre feet. So it'll be definitely well less than the 215. And no material injury associated with production of the 7.5 acre feet over the 4-month period is anticipated, and we recommend approval. Are there any questions on this?
I remember this. I'm not saying, we should oppose the extension, but I remember this, and we remember discussing it at length. The concept of creating the secondary market for water and all that. I just want to remind the board for future event. Other than that, I don't have any other comments.
Any other questions or comments? May I have a motion to grant this extension request?
So one more thing I want to ask Craig. I know we approved this amount, the 215 acre feet, for a period of 2 years. And, obviously there are reasons why we did what we did. In our approval of the resolution that we approved, was there any indication that we can't extend this period, or we can extend this period, or was the resolution, I'm assuming you was silent on that, right?
I believe it was silent on that, Director Ariki. Subject to the discretion of the board later on to make that determination based on the engineer's staff's input.
Okay. All right, now, didn't we subsequently, Craig, tighten this approval process, and we had a resolution later on that says that you can't pump more or something, and if you pump more, we're going to take it away from you. There was something to that effect, right?
Yes.
Correct. That doesn't apply in this case, does it?
I'd have to go back and look at exactly what the context was, but my recollection is we were looking at people who were over pumping and then paying replacement water assessment as a cost of doing business.
Right.
And we addressed that, and I don't believe Mr. Bannock falls into that category.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm done.
All right. May I get a motion to approve the extension?
I'll move to approve the extension, Mr. Wayne.
And Recco second.
Okay, we have a first and a second to approve the extension request. Is there any public comments on this item? May I have a roll call vote, please?
Director Ariki,
Yes.
Director Recca,
Yes.
Director Urasic,
Yes.
Director Chisholm,
Yes.
Director McLaren.
Yes. Okay. Now we will get down to the administrator's report.
All right, does Matt, nothing to report today. Thank you.
Okay.
Matt, I have a question about the Watermaster staffing and all that. Where are we in that process?
We are still working on that, Adam. Hopefully we'll bring something to the board in future meeting to consider.
Do we have a target date when you intend to bring in maybe some sort of
No.
You don't?
Not yet. Yeah, it'll be a future meeting.
Okay. No, I'm in no hurry. I just thought you guys were in a hurry.
Understood.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, we will go on to the Watermasters engineers report.
This is Kate. I'll take this one as well. On page 325 of the packet, there's a summary of approved new production and small pumper qualifying applications, and it's listed by year and by sub-area. This table is updated with the 4 new production applications approved at the December board meeting. And I think that amounted to about 20 acre feet per year for those 4 applications. Any questions on that table?
What again?
Okay, that's all I have.
All right, then. We will go to number 18, which is our general counsel's report, and he has a couple items to discuss.
Yes, Madam Chair. There are several items to update on. No action required on any of them, but I wanted to bring the board up to date. First, the enforcement letters. The genesis of that is the work of the I'll call it enforcement subcommittee of the administrative committee, and the direction of the board to focus on a targeted set of individuals who are delinquent in terms of payment of assessments in some way or another. And we prioritized the numbers of targets for this process and sent letters that are included in the board packet at pages 328 to 337. And we've received responses that we're following up on, but I wanted the board to know that before we take any final action with respect to initiating litigation, these were kind of last chance letters. Entities or individuals that had been subject to repeated requests to comply with the judgment and had not done so. But before we initiate actual litigation, we'll obviously have a closed session and have one for next month to bring the board up to date on where we are on responses to the letters. Secondly, in number B, there is a letter to the Judicial Council with respect to Judge Komar. This results from a Court of Appeal recently issued an opinion in a matter involving the Wood class and LA County Water District number 40, that Judge Komar had made a ruling on attorney's fees that was in error in part, and sent the case back to him to determine the issue with respect to attorney's fees. And the Wood Class Council has moved to disqualify Judge Komar from sitting on the case based on alleged conflicts of interest and other issues. A letter to the Judicial Council found on page 339 of your packet to urge the council to not disqualify Judge Komar from sitting on the entire Antelope Valley cases going forward because of his experience, knowledge of the case. He being Judge Komar has already agreed that he will not sit with respect to hearing the further review of the attorney's fees issues on the remanded case from the Court of Appeal, but that he's open, willing, and able to continue to sit on the rest of the case. And the letter was just responsive from Watermaster General Counsel that he provides value with respect to his experience and knowledge of the case and history with the case. And to lose him entirely from the case would be, I believe, a major setback in terms of the efficient administration of the judgment. So that's the purpose of that letter. Third is a very brief memorandum on the Rosamond Community Services District and their eminent domain action vis-a-vis the Calandry party to, in eminent domain, potentially acquire the water rights of Calandry under the judgment, at least in part. And there was some discussion amongst the board about what the position should be of the Watermaster, if any, with respect to that. And that memo sets forward what we believe is the appropriate role of the Watermaster at this point. Things can always develop differently, and I'm not aware of what exactly the status of that case is, but if it requires intervention in some way, the Watermaster will bring it to the board's attention. But as of now, under the current setting, we don't think there's a basis for the Watermaster to take a position of opposing the Rosamond eminent domain action in light of the facts as they stand now. And that memo is in the very short memo, page 343 of your packet. D is the motions to intervene, is just a matter of updating the Garcia entity and the White Fence Farms Mutual Water Company number 3 both successfully intervened in the case, and that information should be reflected in the administrative process that we keep. The Garcia intervention was approved yesterday in a hearing before Judge Komar, and the White Fence Farms was approved, I believe, at the December 10th hearing in front of Judge Komar. E is a motion filed with the court on Tapia and Tapia payment. This is going to be subject to further discussion in closed session, but the public aspect of it is that we received an order of the court with respect to payment by the Tapia entity that's found in your packet at page 346. And within a couple of weeks of that order being entered, the Watermaster received 2 checks totaling a little over $180,000 from the Tapia entity in payment, partial payment of what is owed under the order. And we'll talk more about what's still owed in closed session and our approach to recovery of that. And finally, the Phelan update. Oral argument took place in early December, actually December 15th. And the opinion of the Court of Appeal came out a couple of days later, affirming our position with respect to Phelan. And we're waiting to see whether there's going to be any further appellate avenues taken by Phelan going forward. But we'll keep you posted on that. I've included the Court of Appeals decision in the packet so you can see what the court's opinion was, which was an affirmation of our position in the case.
Hi there, good morning. This is Daniel Clifford with Old House Properties. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right, thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, and I'll keep my comments brief. They are directed solely at item 18C relating the RCSD eminent domain power. I was able to comment at the meeting where the RCSD authorized the eminent domain action, and I make comments similar to those that I'm raising today. Primarily, it is our position that the RCSD's effort to acquire the Calandry water rights using the eminent domain powers are a blatant effort to conduct an end round around the judgment. I have had an opportunity to take a look at Mr. Parton's analysis and certainly appreciate that. I note in his comments that it is something that the board should pay attention to, as at some point in the future, the board may have a position that it needs to defend with respect to the eminent domain action. As a representative of a Exhibit 4 water rights holder, we certainly find this effort to be odious. There are ample water rights to be acquired either on a temporary basis or a permanent basis that are available for RCSD to acquire, and it is our position that the eminent domain powers, certainly on these facts, are not authorized. So I will close with this final comment, and that is Old House Properties is vehemently and adamantly against the use of eminent domain powers to go behind the judgment. And with that, I'll conclude. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comment. Yes, I have another comment from Matthew.
Yes, good morning. This is Matthew Vickery with Grimway Farms, and would also like to comment on that same agenda item. And following along with Dan's comment, Grimway feels the same way that the eminent domain power being applied here really undermines the surety that Exhibit 4 water right holders thought they were getting through the adjudication, and really feel it's inappropriate to utilize this power in this way to get around the judgment. And like Dan said, especially when there's no true necessity to justify these takings when there's other water sources available. And after reading the memo, I understand that getting involved at this point may be out of the Watermasters' current authorities under the judgment. And so I, as a Exhibit 4 landowner, I would support the Watermaster going back to the judge on this issue, as it seems to me to be one of first impression, and request a larger role in the approval of eminent domain cases to make sure it's consistent with those rights that were offered in the adjudication are being upheld appropriately. So again, would like to be put on record that we're against these type of eminent domain cases, especially where there's no true necessity. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment? Okay.
I do have a board comment, if you don't mind.
Okay.
Great. This is Derek. And I guess back to Craig, I mean, hearing those comments from Exhibit 4 landowners and hearing other comments in similarity, and one of our board members being the one that's party to this, I'm wondering your thoughts of reviewing that and of what they've made. And you know, we have every authority to approve or not approve any, you know, requested or agreed upon transfer or between parties. And it would seem to me that the Watermaster should be involved in something that would be a non-agreed upon process. It would even be more important that the Watermaster be engaged in it.
Yeah, and we can look at that and see whether there's any basis going forward to intervene. I'm aware of information, and I don't know the reliability of the source of it, but that the eminent domain action is, to put it, the only word that comes to mind is stayed presently. So I don't have a sense of what the current litigation posture is of the RCSD eminent domain procedure, and don't want to go down the road of spending a lot of attorney time on the legal topic if it's being eclipsed by the process that the litigation is in right now.
This is Keith Lemieux. Can I comment?
Yeah.
Hi, guys. Keith Lemieux. I just want to say that if, based on the last director comment I heard, if before the Watermaster were to take action on this one way or the other, I'd like to have the opportunity for our steering committee to discuss it, to advise our representative.
The steering committee of what, Keith?
The Public Water Supplier Steering Committee.
Okay.
But before this gets advanced, I'd like to have the chance to have a conversation about the topic internally with the public water suppliers for the benefit of their board representatives.
Well, you're certainly welcome to do whatever you want to do. I don't have board direction yet to proceed in any particular way. The memo was just there for a basic discussion, but you're certainly free to do what you want to do and produce whatever product you want to produce for the consumption of the public.
This is Adam. Craig, I would imagine that nothing is going to come to the board for consideration, to the board that is to the Watermaster board, until the process ends, whatever that process looks like.
Yeah, I think that's probably true, Adam, at which point some analysis needs to take place as to whether the final product, which results in essence of a transfer of water rights, has implications and material injury analysis applied to it by the engineer.
Okay, but that's the extent of our evaluation, material injury analysis, right?
That's what we believe is the situation now.
Okay. Yeah, we don't opine on things of the pertaining to the process itself.
Yeah, how the rights were acquired, as the memo states, is not in our domain. Whether reasonable compensation's been paid, what we're concerned about is the protection of the basin.
Right. That's how I see the world. Thank you. Now, since we're talking, I just need a clarification on the disqualification of Judge Komar by the wood class. Did you say what happened to that? I mean,
Yeah, that's a good point. It's the Judicial Council is still pondering apparently what to do in terms of whether he's disqualified from hearing the entire case or whether it's just the remanded attorney's fees dispute that continues to go on. And Judge Comar has set a hearing for next month to discuss the lay of the land as to what he's supposed to do with respect to the attorney's fees issue, and when we've heard nothing from the Judicial Council. So it's in the Judicial Council's court.
Then why does he have to have a hearing to discuss? I thought he already ruled on the fees.
Well, the technical situation is the remitter issued restoring jurisdiction over the matter to the trial court and Judge Comar.
I see.
So I think he feels like the ball's in his court to make a determination, and yet he's got this recusal effort going on. So he's sought to bring the council together on that in a status conference to determine what, if anything, they're going to do in this period before they've heard from the Judicial Council.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. If we have no more questions and no more public comments, I will go on to number 19, board members' requests for future agenda items.
I don't have a request, but if you may allow me, Madam Chair, Kate, I think this is your last meeting with us.
I think I'll still be around for a little while, helping the transition. But thank you, Adam, for thinking of me.
Okay. And then for those of you that may have heard, Chad Reed is going to leave Courts Hill Water District. He accepted a job somewhere up north in Truckee. And I just wanted to acknowledge his effort on the adjudication and all his work and support, especially for the Public Supplier Committee and for the Advisory Committee. So thank you, Chad. I don't know if you're on the meeting or not, but I wanted to acknowledge you. That's it, Madam Chair.
Do we have any board members' requests for future agenda items? Any other items?
Madam Chair, this is Director Recca, and I appreciate so much what Craig, the effort he's putting into letters. I wanted to thank him for handling finally the one letter going on to the supervisors regarding the water fraud and stealing and all. And then regarding this the eminent domain powers, if we could just keep that as part of his regular updates, just to keep an eye on it, because I do agree and with the position where we are right now. And obviously, if it is outside our jurisdiction, but I think hearing from other Exhibit 4 party members as myself, it's extremely unsettling what's happening. And so I think it's very important we keep an eye on that.
Happy to do so.
Thank you so much.
I agree, because we should be transparent, especially when it's very close to other people's feelings that something like that could happen to them. And so if we can be as transparent, I'd like to do that and make sure that we don't need to be playing a larger part in that. So is there any other future agenda items from anyone else? Okay. Looks like we're going to move on to our closed session conference with legal counsel. And that will be the conference with legal counsel for Zamzrla Tapia.
Madam Chairman?
Yes?
May I speak? This is Pam Zamerswa. I would like to object to closed session on our matter. This is not anticipated litigation. It's actual litigation. Motions have been filed, so this is all public knowledge and public litigation. So there is no need for a closed session.
So you're asking for it to be an open session?
I am, regarding Zamerswa.
Madam Chair, there's confidential matters to be discussed with respect to strategy and responses to current proposals to resolve the matter with the Zermalzes. That is confidential between council and the board.
Okay, so there's nothing we can do in open session. It all must be done in closed session then.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, this will be the decision of the board members. Do I have a motion to go into closed session?
This is Derek. I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
Just Wayne, I'll second it.
Okay, may I have a roll call vote, please?
Director Ariki?
Yes.
Director Recca?
Yes.
Director Urasic?
Yes.
Director Chisholm?
Yes.
Director McLaren?
Yes. All right, we will be back after closed session.
Do we need to hang up or no?
No, just stay on. We'll move you over.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good, over. Well, good for our CSD.